It's just a piece. Add a little bit all the time.
Yeah. So what Mike's talking about, one of my biggest goals this year that I am very, very passionate about is to help you all grow, those that want to grow, by at least 20+%. And so I'm very excited about this coaching series that we've got. For those that came to Q4 coaching, there's going to be some repeat content, but there's also going to be a lot of enhancements on that content. But the key thing, and I'll talk about this in our presentation today, the key thing I always want you guys to remember is real estate is not rocket science. Real estate is basic, it's fundamental, it's built on systems, it's built on great habits, activity, and what we're going to talk about today, a lot of positive mindset and action. So real quick before we start, Michelle, we deal with Cedar Rapids? Are they online?
They're on, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just hold on.
We got 2 on.
You gotta stand in front of the camera.
Yeah,
No, I just seen who's here. Is that Steve and Jamie? Hi, guys. Hi, guys. We got Mike online too, right? Okay, so that being said, 2020, who can believe that they made it to a new decade? I know, I'm excited, and I always knew I was gonna, I plan on making it to like 3,000 something. But if you can imagine how times have changed in real estate, real quick show of hands, who was in real estate in 2010? Okay, so remember like 10 years ago, how different this market was? We were not in a market or even an economy as positive as we are in right now. In 2010, sorry, that's my phone. Shame on me. Let me do this real quick. Sorry, guys. Thought it was on silence. Wah, wah. There we go. In 2010, what's up, York? Real quick before we keep going, Brian, we're doing some introductions. Name, office, and goal for 2020, which?
Brian York, this office, goal for 2020, 75 transactions.
Perfect. So 2010, it was a completely different economy, completely different market. People were worried about keeping their houses. People were worried about keeping their jobs. They had negative equity in their home. Many people did, right, with the foreclosures, with the short sales that we experienced, and a lot of changes happened. A lot of positive changes happened. And so those are the things I want to talk about for 2020, how great this outlook is for this upcoming year. And then also raise your hands again, those that were back as agents in 2010. A lot of us survived, right? Not only did a lot of us thrive, I'm looking at everyone, I see a lot of you thrived and killed it. And we came out even better because of the recession. We came out even better because of things that we learned how to adjust our business. So I do want to share some things with you guys just for 2019. This isn't meant to like be an all-inclusive stat report, but from a high level, I wanted to make sure you guys knew some of these numbers. 15,544 buyer sides. Everyone got a hand up? You got a hand up? 15,543 seller sides, which is actually pretty awesome because in early December, I did this report and it was like 14 and 14 on each side. That gives us a total of 31,087 transaction sites. Who thinks like that's a pretty big number? That's a lot of sites being transacted in Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, $7.1 billion in total volume. Our average sales price, which has been going up over the last few years, was $229,685. This is Des Moines also, so apologize, Cedar Rapids. Months of inventory, 4.56. Who knows what market equilibrium is for months of inventory? I said this before in other classes. Six. Thank you. So 6. So what that tells us is that we've got a shorter supply of inventory, which tells us that we are still in a seller's market, which is very different, right? From 2010, Barry, remember, the buyer's market that we experienced. A lot of lowball offers. Not that we don't see them today, but a lot of lowball offers. 2,155 agents with a reported sale in 2019. Does that seem like a lot?
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive. Why so, Barry?
Well, what's the total number?
2,300?
like 2,400.
Okay. I mean, to have that many at least one sale,
Mhm.
sometimes that seems like a high number to me. But that's,
Yeah, sure. Come on in, Lori. Okay, everyone that comes in, we're gonna introduce ourselves and just say what office you're from and what one quick goal. Sorry, not to put you on the spot.
Lori Storm, Altoona, to get to the right place next time.
Duly noted. We'll make sure to promote Windsor Heights. So yes, if you were to take 2,155 agents divided into the 31,087 units, that would mean that the average agent in our market would have done 12 units, one a month. Not bad, right? But that's not the case. The case is 80-20. 20% of the agents are going to do 80% of the business. If not 90-10, 10% of the agents are going to do 90% of the business. Now, is that set in stone? Absolutely not. Do the top 10 or the top 20% of agents say, hey guys, let's make sure we do everything in our power to keep our 80% and keep the rest of the market out and give them only the 20 or 10%. It's not the case at all. The case is this is a free market. You can be any race, you can be any religion, you can be any color, you can be any sex, you can be any age. The market we're in a capitalistic economy where the market is fair, and there's a law of abundance that I want to make sure that you guys always know about. Okay, quickly too, to be in the top 20% of agents, if you have that as a goal, you would need to do 24 units, close 24 units, and hit right around these are rough numbers, 5 million, I rounded up, $5 million in volume. So close about two houses a month. To be in the top 10%, 36 units for 7.5 million, 3 a month. Top 5%, 48 units, 10 million, 4 a month. Hi, Jacqueline, how are you? Got a handout?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna put Jacqueline on the spot too. Name, office, and one goal for 2020.
Oh, that is on the spot. Jacqueline Duke, I just moved into the district, the new district office. I was at the 36. And my goal is to get back to where I was in my 6.
Awesome. Love that. Okay. And so when you put those numbers in perspective, a lot of times, and the reason why I wanted to start with this, a lot of times we as individuals, we as agents, we as just humans in general, we work from a law of scarcity. We think there's only one thing out there that we can do or one thing that we can have, and then the next thing you know, we're all fighting for it, right? Or next thing you know, we don't think that there's enough. The key thing I want to make sure you all remember is there's plenty of business out there for those that are going to work hard. Law of abundance. No one single agent in our market has more than 1% market share. If you look at markets like Phoenix or Minneapolis, they've got 30 to 40,000 agents. Des Moines, we have 2,000 agents, you know? Was that, did you get that?
Phoenix is 60,000.
Oh, 60,000. Was that
In
40,000?
the valley.
Yeah, in the valley. So that's even higher, you know, that's even worse. Seattle, I didn't remember. What's Seattle? Remember what?
Seattle is 35,000.
35,000. So
Isn't
yeah.
Phoenix the hottest market right now, though? I just read the report.
It's a hot market, but I wouldn't say like hot.
It's probably the top 5.
It's definitely up there.
So what I want to do next is go over the state of economy, and I'm going to give a plug to Brian. A lot of what I'm going to share with you guys, Brian, York shared. Was that a Tom Ferry presentation that you got that from? The slides that you shared with me?
Some of it, yeah.
Tom Ferry, some of our leaders. So a lot of these stats are coming from Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, Nar, Larry, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, Larry Yen, chief economist for NAR. But state of economy, and the key thing with the state of economy is don't listen to the news because it's filled with so many people that are motivated in different ways to share their advice. They make money off of saying things, spinning things, and at the end of the day, they don't know any more than we do. They're just reporting on facts.
That was also what, I see what you're sharing here. That was also via Keeping Current Matters as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Now, how many people have had questions? And in rolling into 2020, I feel like this is one of the most optimistic turn of the years that I've ever been a part of as an agent since 2006. But how many people have been asked the question or have thought the question, when is it going to end? When is a recession going to hit? Anybody?
Sure.
Anyone want to share like what your thoughts are, what your crystal ball is telling you?
I thought it'd be 2018.
You thought it was 2018?
I don't think any economists are predicting a recession right now with the economic indicators we've got. They aren't saying it's not in the wheelhouse.
Yeah. So that you're exactly right. So that I shouldn't say that. I should say, no one's been right. No one's got a crystal ball to look in the future. You're always going to have those individuals that are saying, hindsight's 2020. I knew it was coming. I told you. You know, it's kind of like Nostradamus, right? Every once in a while, out of thousands and thousands and thousands of guesses, somebody gets it right, right? But regardless of whether a recession is coming, which some individuals will say it's the national economists when they're polled, it's less than 50% think one is coming in 2020, less than 40% think it's 2021, and right around there for 2022 to 23. Okay, but the key thing I want to make sure that you guys understand and you answer, right, in 2019, there was a few telltale signs that told us that we actually missed any looming short-term recession. But the key thing I want to make sure I tell you guys is a recession does not automatically equal a housing crisis. If you look at the history of recessions that we've experienced, 1980, house prices were up 6.1%. 1981, house prices were up 3.5%. 1991, down 1.9%. 2001, up 2006. Great Recession, which many of us, or a few of us, lived through, the market was down 19.7. So if you average those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recessions, home prices didn't all go crazy and drop 20%. Some of them, 4 out of the 5, went up, but averages still only dropped 1%, you know? And that's 2008, if anything, if you're a stat person, that's an outlier. You know, you get rid of the extreme low and you get rid of the extreme high, and we really haven't had a recession caused by, or housing crisis caused by a recession. Does that make sense? So the key thing here is regardless if a recession is going to happen or not, there's not a direct correlation with real estate. All right, should we put Ryan on the spot?
Yes, please do.
Ryan, hi everyone, welcome Ryan. Ryan, your name, your full name?
Late. I did that at bingo the other night. They tried to embarrass me, that didn't work.
Tell us your office, and I want to actually make sure everyone knows how long you've been in business, and then one goal that you have for 2020.
Okay, Ryan Rivera with the Windsor Heights office. Got my license July of 05, and then joined Concepts in 06. And my goal for this year is to follow my business plan. But I'm ready. Just follow my business plan.
Yeah.
Should be easy to do.
Love it. And to kind of, now that a lot of agents have come, and one thing too, this is a series of coaching that we're going to have weekly, right? There are 2 weeks that we're going to have to skip for selfish personal reasons. One is R4, which maybe hopefully a lot of us won't be here in town anyways, and we'll be in Vegas learning and is having fun. And then spring break, which is the week of March 20th. But other than that, we're going to be chugging along. We've got 12 pretty rock solid coaching sessions. We're going to be talking about business planning. We're going to talk about activity that we need to focus on. We're going to talk about all kinds of lead generation strategies. We're going to be talking about direct mail, open house, selling strategies, pricing strategies. So if you guys can't tell, I'm pretty excited about what we have in store. And if it were up to me, I'd just keep going every day until I get talking more. Okay, so top 3 triggers for the next recession. Trade policy, which we've seen some pretty big news about trade policy, right, between U.S. and China. Did that cause a recession? No. Was that one of the biggest trade wars that my generation, our generation, has ever seen? Mike's nodded and said yes, right? It's never gotten that bad with the trade war with China before. You know, the other economic superpower. That didn't cause a recession. Number 2, a stock market correction. You know, the stock market, for what I'm seeing, for what the housing market is seeing, you know, right now stocks are at all-time high, but worst case scenario, I remember the .com 2000 bubble exploded, and we had a 2001 recession because of that, and home prices still were up at we're still up 6.6%. Okay. 3rd is a geopolitical crisis. Geopolitical crisis to an extreme is in a war, a terrorist act, anyone, an agent, or in some sort of market-driven activity in September of 2001. Did everything recover okay?
Everything kept moving right along.
Yeah. I was a financial advisor at the Principal Financial Group 2001, September 11, and you thought that, if the world was ending, and very, very quickly within the next quarter, within that following quarter of 2002, things were recovering. We were okay. The world was not ending.
Principal, went to IPO. They were the first Fortune 500 company to do it.
Yeah.
September 11.
Yeah, they sure did. I unfortunately was not working for them at that time, so I missed out on some stock options that they gave to employees. So I got Prudential though. But anyways, number 9, all the way. So we had 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 9 is this housing slowdown. So even if the housing market slows down, it's not a top 5, not a top 6, 7, 8 for a trigger of recession. Some more stats I want to share with you guys. Housing appreciation forecast, 2019. This is all national houses, real estate housing appreciated by 4.1%. In 2020, it's projected to appreciate a little slower, 2.8, a little slower in 21, 2.5, and then back up to 3% in 2020. Historically, I'm going to look at some of our senior agents here. Historically, we've seen about 3% appreciation in real estate, right? Overall. So not too shabby. If anything, I was telling an agent earlier today, there's not a lot of things that we can buy that are appreciating assets. You buy a car, whether it's new or new to you, and you drive it off the parking lot, or you want to sell it 1 to 2 to 3 years later. Does it go up in value 2 to 3 to 4 to 5%? It doesn't. So the cool thing about housing is not only do we get to live in a work in an industry that things appreciate, but the sellers that we're helping sell are continuing to pay down their loan balance and build equity. Okay. 2023, it's a projected 3.4. Again, no one's got a crystal ball. This is another exciting stat that I wanted to share with you guys. Homeownership rate, that's calculated by the number of owner-occupied homes divided by the number of total occupied homes. So right now, it's climbed every year since 2016. Homeownership rate is 64%. That's a very, very, very solid number. And as it continues to grow, which I think it will because of all the things we're going to talk about more, that just means that more and more people are going to continue to buy and sell. Okay. Another positive stat that I wanted to share with you is affordability. Right now you hear houses aren't as affordable. Well, the good news with Des Moines, and we all know this, right, is Des Moines with the average price of $230 is still much more affordable than Arizona, than San Francisco, than Phoenix, and even some of our big city neighbors, Kansas City, Omaha, and Minneapolis. I thought this was kind of pretty cool. Typical mortgage payments in 2000, $1,100. 2006, $1,280. 2012, jumped down a little bit, $550. 2018, bounced back up, $877, $878. And 2020, $910. So why is there a difference? It's not because we've had a decrease in the cost of living, right? In 2000, does anyone remember what interest rates were roughly back then? Higher than today's 3%, right? Higher than the 5.75% rate that I got when I bought my house in 2004, if I remember correctly, and we can edit this part of the video out, Michelle, so I can double check my stats. But I think in 2000, it was like 7 or 8% roughly. Was he?
Just under 8.
Oh, thank
I
you.
remember that's when we bought our first house, and we thought we had hit the jackpot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tyson's parents bought their first house, it was like 17%.
Yeah. You talk to some of the agents that were around in the 1980s with the S&L crisis, the farm crisis, and they were ecstatic when rates got below 10%. So what's anyone see a rate sheet today for a 30-year, no points? I think I saw one last week, like at 3.3 or 3.4 or something like that. So that's very optimistic. And so one of the key things I always want to make sure too that I tell people is at the end of the day that there's so many different metrics, so many different levers that alter and adjust the market. But at the end of the day, the market it's driven by supply and demand. It's Econ 101, supply and demand. The more supply, the lower the prices. The lower the supply, the higher the prices. So you always want to make sure that you have a good understanding of that. We're going to talk more a little bit about the buyer demand that's really helping us out, the millennials. Also, one thing that I wanted to point out simply is how many clients in reality buy because of the price of the home. We hear that a lot because when we set up our searches, oh, I have a $100,000 or a 150 or $2 or 250 or $35 million budget, right? But how did they get to that? They're telling you that final answer, but how did they get that? They got that based off of their payment. They're putting 3.5% down. They're putting 5% down. They're putting 10% down. They're basing that off of a 15 or a 30. They're basing that off of a 3 or a 4 or 5% interest rate. So ultimately, that's the key thing that I always want to make sure that you guys understand is figure out that payment threshold that your target client is, and then go from there. Another thing that I wanted to kind of help figure out too, help you guys kind of remember too, is front end ratios. When a loan officer is qualifying one of your clients, they're still going off of 30%. The national historic norm is like 20% front end ratio. Total debt to income ratio is still 40%. So for easy math, I do math. I think I'm gonna do math real quick in my head. So if someone has a $48,000 household income, their monthly income is $4,000. So that 30% of $4,000 means that they qualify for a $1,200 payment, which at a 5%, can anyone tell me at a 5%, 3.5% interest rate, what $1,200 gets you per month?
65 and 70.
What, 65 and 70? I think you're right. That sound about right? Okay. Some more stats.
What's the PMI?
Right.
It's like 0.03 of that. So whatever that ends up being. So don't quote on, double check that for me too, Michelle. We can take that off. Inflation right now is tracking at 1.8%. That's not bad. We don't want to see hyperinflation. In some of the countries down in South America, they're seeing costs go so crazy that a gallon of milk, a carton of egg is just unaffordable to your average person. But we also don't want to see deflation, because deflation means that GDP, the economy, just things aren't growing. So inflation is good. Just like we want to grow, the economy needs to grow. Prices need to go. Cost of goods, cost of labor, cost of material, just everything factored into those things. So with inflation being at 1.8%, that's not too bad, right? Especially if we're going to see house prices appreciating between that 3 to 4%. So housing is outpacing inflation. Some other great stats that you can share with your clients. Right now, nationwide and locally, unemployment is at 3.6%, which is nuts. If anything, we need more people to work, right? Especially if you're in the construction industry, we'd love more people to sign up to be framers and roofers and plumbers and electricians. The cool thing about Des Moines is unemployment's also very low. It's actually a little lower than this. And it's not the blue collar jobs that we're trying to hire for. It's the white collar jobs, the jobs that are going to have, you know, the 45 to 60 to 65 plus in salaries. Another stat that I'd love to share, I didn't put this on here, Polk County, and don't quote me exactly, but in 2000, this was from 2018, Polk County average household median income was like $67,000. So that's the average, median's right in the middle, I should say. Dallas County was like $73,000. So factoring in some of those stats and understanding what, you know, that qualifies a person for, also good to know. Consumer confidence, another positive stat, is at a 96 right now nationwide out of 100, meaning that 96 out of 100 people are very, very, very confident in the economy right now. That's pretty awesome, right? Stock market's high. We've had 7 years of rising real estate. Back to the trade war. Does it hurt? Yes, but not us as consumers. The trade wars hurt more businesses, down to the builders. You know, if we're in a trade war right now and there's issues with plastics or issues with electronic components, issues with, you know, even in my home building, we had that tariff with Canada, right? That hurt lumber prices. We've had issues with things from China, right? But that hurts businesses, which ultimately will roll down to the consumer. But from my experience of all these things that happen with trade policy, it didn't slow down home building. If anything, there's still a high demand for new construction. Continued shortage of inventory. That's another thing too, back to the supply and demand that I was talking about. This continued shortage, even though we don't love like a really, really low inventory that we've seen even before the number of houses on the market, I'd love to see 6 months of inventory. I think that'd be great. But that's also still very positive. New construction sales and existing homes remain stable. Mentioned this earlier. Rates are still great, 3.7%. The one thing that I'm reading and researching, I'd love to hear if anyone's heard anything different than what I've read, is the Fed understands how important interest rates are, mortgage interest rates, I should say, are important to the economy. So much of our economy is benefited from a strong housing market, not just the individuals that are processing the loans, not just us as real estate agents, but you think about everyone that is tied to the housing market, all the way to the person that is buying and developing land, the people that are doing the labor. So what the Fed has said publicly is we're going to hang tight on rates. We know that if we drop rates anymore, that can cause some shifts and adjustments that we don't want to really mess with. But then we also know that if we go any higher, that can also cause a slowdown in one of the biggest segments of our economy. So right now, based on everything that I've heard and read, rates are going to hang tight. You know, we have heard rumors and rumblings, you know, every quarter, oh, rates are going to go up, rates are going to go up. They go up, and when they go up, 0.125, less than a quarter. And what's it do to the housing market? Not much, right? I mean, last year, rates were even above 4%. Who remembers what the highest rate that they've seen in the last 24 months has been?
Back in January, I saw someone, I mean, he didn't have great credit, but it was close to things like 1.5.
Yeah.
I saw 5.7, but it was also like a weird scenario.
Credit situation. Yeah. How about good credit? What was a high rate for good credit in the last couple of years? Anyone remember? Somewhere in the fours, right? What do you guys think?
4.25.
Yeah, 4.25. Yeah. And so the reason why I'm bringing these stats up, and I'm not trying to like give you guys like a pop quiz. This isn't, you know, Jeopardy by any means. But as you guys are talking to the market, that's going to be one of the next steps that we're going to talk about. As you're talking to your friends and your family members, you're talking to people at open houses, you're talking to just anybody about real estate, they're going to ask you that question, right? How's the market? I just want to make sure that A, you guys can give some really good stats, right? And impress the individuals that you're talking about. But then B, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to be the mental leaders of that conversation. Because if we as real estate agents with livelihoods that depend on buying and selling homes think that the sky is falling, that the market's all doom and gloom, that owning a house sucks, that selling a house sucks, pardon my language, what's that do for that one person that you're talking to, let alone the 200 people that they may talk to throughout the year? Oh, it's my real estate agent friend, my sister, my brother, my uncle, my dad who's in real estate. They say, don't buy a house. Now, you guys know as much as I do that everything is just so mental. It all comes down to, do they have a job and can they afford a house? And one thing I tell my clients all the time, I get asked this question, ooh, should we buy or should we sell? That's a great question. Ultimately, I would have you ask yourself and look at your own personal economy. How secure are you in your job? How do your finances look? Are your ratios where they need to be? Is your budget where it needs to be? And if so, buy, because you can't predict where the market's going to be. I can tell you that this is the highest we're going to be, or I can tell you the lowest we're going to be. But guess what? I have a 90+% of being wrong. So it always depends on the person and the situation that they're in. The key thing is making sure that they have self-confidence of their own personal economy, and that they're, you know, and I said earlier, a lender is going to qualify your buyers based off a 30% front-end ratio, a 40-ish% total ratio, right, Mike? But if you follow the Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys, they're going to say 25%. So how much value is that by telling your clients that, hey, before we I send you a loan officer, this is a simple breakdown of how I help my clients figure out payments, and this is a simple ratio of how I help my clients figure out, you know, where they should be at from a budgetary standpoint. I have a 50-30-20 rule, or a, you know, 60-40, or some sort of 60-20-20 rule, and you have a handout, a sheet for them. Okay, so far so good, everybody. How we doing on time? What page am I on, Michelle? Page
I have
2?
no idea.
Okay, thanks. I'm alone on an island. I have no handlers. Don't normally have someone tell me what to do and where to
I'll
be.
leave this over here.
Okay, are we good? Is Cedar Rapids good? Oh, we had a lot more show up. It looks like. Hi guys. Awesome. A few more things that I wanted to share with you. The biggest thing coming up, and you guys all heard it, you've all seen the commercials, 2020 election. But guess what? I was an agent when George W. Bush was president. I remember talking to a bunch of agents when the election, before Barack Obama was elected, it was, really a hot, heated debate between who everyone was voting for. Trump, when Trump was, in the process of running and getting elected, and this year, who knows? But guess what? You don't really care, because at the end of the day, the government, the economy is so robust that sure, there's a president that might try to do this or do that, but luckily everyone's got 4 years to do what they can do, and life rebounds, the economy rebounds, the country always rebounds. So don't worry about those things. Those are all things that are all out of our control. One thing that also, millennials are anxious about the election, but I'm going to talk more about the positives about the millennial generation. This is one thing from Robert Shiller. He's a very popular, well-known Nobel winning prize. He won a prize for his economic work, but he said a recession is likely years away. And also what he said is a recession is kind of like a pressure cooker. When things get too high, pressure cookers need to release the steam, right? So recessions are not a bad thing. A great recession, based on what he said, is very unlikely to happen. I think we've learned from those mistakes that happened in 2008, 9, 10. Talked about that. Sky is not falling. Things are way better than what's being reported. Okay. Anyone have anything to add to that? All right, let's move on to the next section. We're going to talk about challenges now. Challenges that we as a market, as an industry, as agents, as brokers, as brokerages have. There's always going to be disruptors. Nationwide, there's billions and billions of dollars being invested in some of our disruptors, whether it's been Zillow, whether it's been Redfin, whether it's been the new technology. There's hearsay of Amazon starting a real estate brokerage. There's new tools and tech out there that allows buyers to go through homes unattended without an agent, right? Let me tell you about past disruptors that we've had. The MLS, the internet. Back in the day, agents, not when I've been an agent, but agents weren't able to search on the MLS and look for houses. They had to go through a book, right? Back in the day, instead of these smartphones that we could, access all this information instantaneously and start our cars and open up lock boxes, we had Blackberries. Blackberries were relevant up until 10 plus years ago, right? We had Trios. My first smartphone was a Trio. So in the history of the world, there's always been things that have been disruptors. There have always been things like the Cold War and build bunkers and, stock up on things. But guess what? Disruptors are always going to penetrate the market. Disruptors are created when they see that consumers are unhappy, when they feel like there is an opportunity to jump on something that can be more efficient. So the key thing for us is to make sure we understand who the disruptors are. Make sure we understand what their value proposition is, what their strengths are, and make sure that we know how to offset those things. There's always going to be someone willing to do it cheaper, right? But that old adage, you get what you pay for, will help you compete against the disruptor. The mindset that there's a law of abundance, there's plenty of opportunities out there, will help you understand that if you don't get that one listing because someone, was lower than you, the next gens, the flat fee brokerages, there's another opportunity right around the corner because we're focused on things and the opportunities that we have from a lead generation, marketing, networking standpoint. Okay. One of the biggest things with disruptors, and I actually want Shane to kind of chime in too because he has some really good verbiage that I want to have you guys all hear what he says when it comes to the flat fee, put him on the spot. Flat fee next generation. I've heard you say it, you'll be fine, but no, on the spot. But the one thing about when you're meeting with a buyer and seller, humans are always motivated by two things. fear, and desire. So when you're sitting with buyers, when you're sitting with sellers, when you're demonstrating your personal brand, your integrity, your experience, your knowledge, your skills, you also can work off of those things. I don't want you guys to, just entice people with desire and scare people with fear, but I want to make sure that psychologically you use those things to offset the things that you're going up against. So the desire for them to sell fast, the desire for them to sell at the highest price, the desire for them to have the least amount of stress, the desire for them to make the transaction that you're about to take them through as easy as possible. The fear of not using someone that's skilled in pricing or negotiation or marketing or systems or customer service, not knowing things that you know. Is this house in a floodplain? Is this home gonna appraise because it can or can't go FHA, VA? Is it a situation where you've helped other people avoid foreclosure or short sale? So really understand the motivation behind every individual client that you have, what their fear and what their desire is. Understand that there's always going to be someone willing to do it less. Will you do it for 7%? Because some other agent told me 6. Will you do it for 6? Some other agent told me 5. Will you do it for 5? Some other agent told me 4.5. Will you do it for 4? Some other agent told me they'd do it for $500. I can tell you 5 agents that are willing to undercut you every single time. Okay, but guess what? Make them irrelevant because of your skills, customer service. Now back to, you want to be on the spot, you want to be the end?
You gotta, I say a lot of different things at
Yeah.
different moments, so you gotta tell me which one you're referring to.
November broker meeting. It was Tuesday, and no, I'm being serious. Someone was talking about going up against Next Generation.
Are you talking,
I didn't-
like, get what you pay for, compared it to Applebee's?
Applebee's.
Which one?
Yeah, that one.
To compare to Applebee's?
Yep.
Okay,
And you get what you pay for. Those 2 things.
yeah, so anytime it comes up, I always respond, you get what you pay for. And I correlate it, when you're talking Next Generation to us, between Applebee's and 801 grade. Why do people pay for 801 grade? Because of quality and service. Mistakes can still come from the same spot as the experience. So that is what he's referring to in that regard. It's been pretty successful. And then the main thing to remember when you're going up against something like that is, they say, well, we have a lot of people, or, some, he used, we'll do it for $500 or whatever. Most of the time, clients just want to feel like they've gotten a little bit. And if the model makes sense for you to adjust a little bit, there's a lot of numbers between 5 and 6%. You could do, 250. You could do a quarter of a percent. Just whatever makes sense for you. And at the end of the day, they will usually agree with it. They just want a little bit of give.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, that was awesome. And a lot of it too is just, what's that?
I'm starting to see a lot of ballsy agents out there put things on for 2 and 2.5.
Mhm.
Can't really fight that, right?
You still,
I mean, as a buyer's agent, you can't.
Are you talking about the buyer commission?
Yes,
Yeah.
you
So I'm
can't,
saying,
yeah.
so what's the rub there? 'Cause I've seen a few, and
My philosophy has always been that if you're doing it for the right reasons, it all adds up. Whether it's, the agent's keeping 4 and you're getting 2. I still would suggest showing that home to the client.
Yeah.
I know there are some agents that won't. They'll direct them to all 3.5%, but is that really in the best interest of the client?
Yeah. The one thing too, I'm gonna just kind of tell you guys a story. Mr. Joe, can you help me put your back? I'm gonna tell you guys just a real quick story about my wife, Joy. For those that haven't met her, those that don't know her professional background, she was a nurse. I think she's still a nurse. I think she still has all of her credits up to date and all that fun stuff. She wanted to be a nurse her whole life. As a little kid, she dreamt about it. After college, she got her 2-year degree from Mercy College. She studied her butt off. When I first started dating her in 2001, she was studying her butt off to pass her boards, and she passed. She's so excited because she was getting to go into an industry that she had a lot of passion for. She loves taking care of people. She's great in the medical industry. And she was so excited when she got her first job as a baby nurse. And she was super happy and thrilled that she got a great rate at that time. And her hourly rate was like in the 20s, an hour. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was a little higher because she was working as a night nurse. So like 25 bucks an hour. Pretty good, right? Great. I was telling you guys earlier, average household income in Des Moines, Iowa is $67,000. In Dallas County, it's $73,000, right? Nurses, their household, their average salary is $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, right? And guess what? They work some crazy hours overnight. They work extended hours. They're seeing blood gush all over, poop, vomit, puke. Wait, vomit, puke, same thing. They're having to see people get cut open and heal these people. So they're making a ton of, they're doing a lot for not a ton of money. And you look at our average agent. Our average agent did 24 deals last year. Gross commission 120-some thousand, right? So we're 3 times the average nurse, what the average nurse makes. And so I will say, does it suck when someone asks us to take less than our 7%? Does it suck when we don't see 3.5%, we see 3 or 2.5%? Absolutely. But you have to put it all in perspective, right? So that's a key thing is we live in America, in the land of the free, where it's a capitalistic market and people are still going to buy or sell. Now, at the end of the day, there is a way to offset the 2.5%. You could say, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, come on into my office. Let's talk about the buying process and how things are going to work and how I'm going to help you navigate this, my skills, my experience, my resources. And this is an exclusive buyer's agreement. And this exclusive buyer agreement basically means I'm going to give you everything I can. I'm going to give you 5-star service. I'm going to take you out, whether it's a Saturday morning or a Wednesday night. My kids might be at practice or my wife might be getting ready to put my kids to sleep. But I'm going to give you all I got, all the experience I have. And for this, I'm going to ask you to sign this agreement that when we go to buy a home, 9 out of 10 times that house is going to be listed on the market. 9 out of 10 times I'm going to probably get paid at least 3% commission. But should I help you find a house that's for sale by owner or next generation and they don't have a commission on there, or should the commission rate be less than 3%? This is how we can work this out, work this together. You put in the price, you guys can pay me out of pocket, all those things. Does that kind of make sense? Does that help out a little bit, Brian? And so when you have that, sit down, come to the office, buyer presentation, you have your value proposition of all the things you're going to do to help them make one of the biggest decisions of their life. I think they're going to be stupid to not use any of you guys. Anyone have anything like that? That's pretty good. Huh? I'm sorry, I should be close like that. I'm ready to use myself as an agent. Good? I forgot where we're at. Okay, so the key thing too, though, I listed off some disruptors and some market changers. I'm going to kind of bounce in these 3 bullets. So think about how the disruption has changed our industry in an effective way. Dot loop, we used to be a paper industry, right? Dot loop changed that. GPS, back in the day, you had to remember streets. And okay, I'm at 1,000, so that means I'm at like a 100 block.
Print out MapQuest.
What's that?
Printed out MapQuest before you went out.
Yeah. Think about Uber and how that's disrupted the taxi industry. Think about Airbnb and how that's disrupted the hotel industry. Efficiency and effectiveness is good. I love the fact that we have dot loop. I'm so happy that Concepts was one of the first brokerages that decided to go all in on being paperless 10 plus years ago. Right, Ryan? I'm so happy that we were the leaders to bring electronic earnest money, right, Shane? Those things are efficient and they helped change our market. So what we need to do instead of fighting against new technologies and disruptors is learn how to play the game, learn how to innovate alongside them, learn how to be flexible and nimble. Our feet are not buried in the mud or stuck in concrete. We can be shifty and nimble, okay? But then also what we have to remember too is that real estate can't sell itself, right? You can do an online auction and boom, 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 but there's still going to be someone that needs help with the paperwork. There's still going to need to be someone to make sure that there's credibility on both sides of the transaction. There's still going to be human interaction. Robots are not going to take over what we do. Robots cannot show houses. Robots cannot help negotiate. Robots cannot give advice based on 20, 30, 10, 15, 5, 3 years of experience. So I want to make sure you guys know that these disruptors, they're not going to last. You think about some of the ones that have been here, some of these companies, these .coms back in 2000, 2010 that came. Zillow, to this day, has not yet reported a profit. They're working off of investor money because they're publicly traded. They can't make, even when our agents in the world or in the market are paying them $700, $1,000, $2,000, $6,000 a month, they still haven't turned a profit. Where they're trying to turn a profit is by flipping houses. They're trying to get an iBuyer. They're still trying to figure it out. And guess what? In a certain extent, it's kind of shame on us because we weren't there first with a better NAR or DMAR or MLS real estate website. But we have all understood that that's what we need to do. But also we've all understood those agents that have, myself included, paid for internet leads. We know that those aren't the best leads out there, are they? What are the best leads? The best leads are the ones that you create with relationships, with face-to-face contacts by the people that know you and trust you and love you. So if you're a great agent that are doing those things, your clients don't even need to know what Zillow.com is. Okay. So back to why real estate is always going to need human interaction, and why I am very confident agents will always exist, is because what we are helping people buy and sell is high prices. They're not buying widgets on Amazon.com. They're not buying 10 things for $30. Everything that we're helping them do is, on average, at least 6 digits, right?
It's emotional too.
It's very emotional. Thank you. Yeah. It's also very complex, right? How many pages is our new DMAR purchase agreement? Anyone know? How many pages is a seller's disclosure? How many pages are there on loan docs? I don't know yet. I don't think you guys know this. How many pages are in covenants? How many pages are on how many addendums do we need? We need a townhome addendum. We need a purchase addendum. We need a occupancy agreement. We need there's a lot of stuff, right, guys? So real estate is very complicated. Also, it's infrequent. The average homeowner lives in their house 5 to 7 years. So it's not like they're doing this every month. Oh yeah, this is how we do it. And it's very unique, right? It's a very unique product. Okay. I talked about a little bit of iBuyers. I'm not too worried about them right now. I don't want you guys to be either, because at the end of the day, it's always a case-by-case situation. You're always going to have someone that's willing to trade in their car instead of sell it on the market. The good thing about the real estate market is more people are frequently using agents and selling it traditionally versus just getting an instant offer. In lots of situations that I've seen, if a seller were to go through an iBuyer situation, they're losing a lot of money. They're losing tens of thousands of dollars, if not 100,000, because that iBuyer isn't going to give them full market rate. They're going to give them 70 cents, 60 cents on the dollar, right? And then their fees, when you look at the fees on some of these iBuyer programs, they're charging them more in fees than we're charging them in commission and all the other processing fees. So make sure you're a student in the game, so that way you know. Especially, I think the people that are really, really susceptible to the iBuy platforms are people that are just super motivated, or they've been in their house forever. The house is a little bit dilapidated. You should educate them. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you know what? Let me buy a house from you. Don't let someone you don't know make money. I'll buy your house for this. I'm going to put this type of money into it, and I'm going to sell it for that. So if you're willing to just cut loose, and if you can't financially do it, let me know. I know within our brokerage, we've got some agents and/or agents with investors that have that, so you can get a commission on that. But if anything, once you educate a buyer, and maybe that's your value proposition, right? Maybe your value proposition is, Grandma, Grandpa, I can help you do this. I have all the trades to help you come in. We're going to declutter the house. We're going to depersonalize it. We're going to paint it. We're going to deep clean it. We're going to stage it. Instead of selling this house to that iBuyer for $150,000, we're going to put 10 grand into it. You've got the equity. You've got the cash. We're going to list it for $250,000. You're going to make $100,000 more, $50,000 more, $30,000 more doing it the way that I can help you do it, hold your hand and help you do this, versus just cutting and run. Does that make sense? Anyone come up against an iBuyer or a next gen or any type of situation that you guys want to talk out before we move on to the next session?
iBuyers.
Did you just find out what iBuyer was?
I just did. I watched the Buffini company webcast. So.
iBuyers just is no different than what investors do. So
Yeah, we'll buy your house for cash if I can't sell it.
Just, yeah.
And there's certain number of agents in our market that do that.
Well, of course, yeah.
Just to get the phone ringing.
Same concept.
So let's move forward. Buyer challenges that will continue, and I want to poll you guys as I talk about this too, or competition with other buyers. Are we seeing a lot of competition? I saw some, help talk through some agents with multiple offer situations. There was like 4 other offers on one. There was like 2 other offers on the other. Are you guys seeing how many saw that at least once or twice last year? Yep.
Last week.
Another challenge that buyers are going to continue to face is the quality of inventory is low. There might be 3,000, 4,000 plus houses, but not all houses are the same, right? Some of them are new. Some of them are new and still not as up to quality as an existing home. Some homes haven't been updated. They still have the teal carpet, the shag carpet, the wallpaper. New construction inventory is expected to rise, but that is a challenge that a lot of buyers have, is new construction is, has been outpriced for them. I think average price that I saw in new construction in 2019 was like $322. That's almost $100,000 higher than the average existing home price or total market price of $229. Other challenges that we'll continue to see is buyers don't want to overpay. How many people have had that as an excuse why some of your buyers are on the fence right now, right? The
Thinking
market.
that potentially, if the market goes down, then all of a sudden, they overpaid for the home in 6 months.
Yeah. So we as the agent, we as the expert, we have to coach our clients to do this. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the last few years, appreciation, what we've seen is 3 to 4%. Historically, appreciation's been that 3 to 4%. So right now we're okay. Back in 2012, this same house, new construction-wise, might have been at this price, but at the end of the day, these are the reasons why prices are where they're at. So am I concerned that you could see a loss in value moving forward? Sure, I can't predict that market, but at the end of the day, what we said earlier about personal economy, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is this house affordable? Do you feel confident in your job? Do you feel confident in what you have for reserves and savings? Do you feel confident in how you budgeted your monthly income? And is this home going to meet your needs and wants? A lot of people that I've built houses for, $400, $500, $600, $700, they don't need a $3,000, $4,000 payment. They want a $4,000 payment. So as long as they understand what they're getting into, it's irrelevant, right? So those are the things, though, I want to make sure you guys always understand, is buyers don't want to overpay. This is more of a positive than anything. Lots of millennials turning 30 in 2020. The oldest will be turning 39 this year. 50% of mortgages this year will be millennials. So that's, I guess what I'm trying to do too here is like try to help you guys flip challenges into opportunities. So just real quickly too, a millennial by definition, born in 1980 to 1996. Delete some of these notes, guys. I was working on this ever since what day? Last Tuesday, Michelle. So this is like 20 hours of research all in 5 pages. They're the largest generation that we've seen. They're bigger than the baby boomers, for those of you baby boomers in this room, and they're bigger than Gen Xers, which I'm a Gen Xer. So that's a super positive thing. So if they were born in 1980, they're 39, going to be 40. That's an awesome age for millennials to move up. The youngest, what do we say the youngest was? 1996. I mean, so
23, 24.
yeah.
The very last one.
Yeah, that's you? You were born 1996? I graduated in 1996.
Me too, college though.
They believe in home ownership. So this is one thing too, I want to have you guys all nip this in the bud about millennials, right? Law of attraction. So when you hear the word millennial, they get thrown under the bus so fast. They're lazy. They don't believe in home. See Madison right there, and she is the opposite of any stereotype that you'll ever want to say or that you'll ever hear about a millennial. They're lazy. They want to live with their parents their whole life. They don't believe in working, and they want everything easy and this and that. And that's not true. You got to remember 1996 to 1980, that's a huge difference. Me at 39 was way different than me at 23, right? 23, I was barely responsible. But at 39, you have a family, you have kids. And so I want you guys to just, in your mind, don't diss the millennials. You need to embrace them. What I say, 50% of mortgage applications, the largest buying pool that we'll ever see. I think that we'll ever see. Also, kind of remember too, people used to diss the Gen X, Gen Y, and the baby boomers. Baby boomers. Who's a baby boomer in this room? Baby boomers still get dissed. I was at somewhere and someone says, "Okay, boomer." I'm like, "Yeah, that's not nice. Respect your elders." Baby boomers got dissed for what reasons, Mike? Because you like the Beatles?
I got just,
Long hair.
Long hair, bell bottoms?
I got just for being number 11 and 12.
Wait, say that again?
I'm number 11 and 12 kids.
Oh wow. That's a lot.
I just skipped in on the bottom of the boomers. They just drug me along because I was part of that family.
So what are the opportunities if you know a millennial buyer? Well, if you're a millennial agent, they're your peers, right? So you can be the subject matter expert of anything buying or selling. If you're a little older than them, like me, by a few years, all of a sudden you're like their big brother, their big sister, helping them, wade through this journey of buying and or selling. If you're parent age or grandparent age, even better, because you can take them underneath your wing. You can nurture them. You can give them that parental guidance. And I see it all the time where there's millennial buyers with a 50, 60, 70-year-old agent, and that millennial buyer is like a puppy to that right, Trish? To that 50, 60, 70-year-old agent. They are so loyal to you. Like, that's the thing too. People just, they're not loyal. No, they are. Everyone's different. No one's the same. There's still types of A, B, C, D, I, S, C, C's. So don't put them all into one bucket. Okay. The cool thing also about millennials is not only are they going to becoming first-time home buyers, right, Madison? And I think Madison should have an auction for who gets to pick her, gets to use her, have her. Not only are they first-time home buyers, which first-time home buyers historically represent about 60+% of the buying market, but they're also becoming first-time parents. So they're needing to move up too, or will be needing to move up. Maybe they bought that first entry-level home that's 1,300 square feet, or a condo or townhome that's 1,000 or 1,100 square feet, and then they need to add a bedroom or add some bathrooms or add a yard for their kids to play with. A little bit more about different generations. Boomers and Gen X's, they are currently comfortable staying put, but X is ready for a trade-up, my generation. So, they paid off their student loans, their kids are no longer in daycare, which could be a mortgage in itself. And so they're going to be moving up, and most move-up buyers are moving up 1.5 times. Okay, so if their first house they bought was 200, they're now moving up to 300,000, 250, 375, 300, 450. That's right. That's right. And remember about payment too. So if they bought a house and they're paid 1,000, maybe their new payment's 1,500. Maybe it goes from $2,000 to $3,000 payments. That also kind of has a nice little correlation with apartment renters too, or townhome renters too. So if you're seeing people pay $1,500 to $2,000 for a rental, they'll normally be able to pay at least that. And I'm seeing a lot of that in the western suburbs, right? $1,500 to $2,000 in rental payments. Normally they'll be able to pay at least that, if not a little bit more than that. So where else are we at, guys? I got so many notes on this section. Entry-level buyers, just remember, one of the things to educate them on is it can take longer just because the supply isn't as high as probably what they'd like to see. So you have to educate them in the fact that they may need to move fast. And we can go on and on about how to help them do that, but just making sure that they're educated with what's available as you take them through, helping them with the process of elimination, help them identify their needs and their wants. So when that perfect house is available, that they're ready to act. And the key thing is not helping them so that they're not hurting themselves. Sometimes we know that buyers will make too quick of a decision, they don't sleep on it. So one thing that I always tell anyone making a decision, and it helps, I think, build a lot of trust and confidence in me as a professional, is head, heart, and gut. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, don't buy anything until it aligns with your head, your heart, and your gut. Sleep on things, make sure it's logical, make sure it's practical. At the end of the day, also make sure it feels good in your gut, because the gut is connected to all major organs. Okay, anyone have anything to add to that? Jane? Mr. Moral Support. Sellers, entry-level sellers, those sellers that are selling anything in that mid to high hundreds, if not even lower than that, low twos, mid twos. Make sure that they're ready to move fast. You know, every market's different, right? So making sure that you know their local market, every neighborhood's different. So letting them know that, you know, this is the average days of the market. It might be 29 days market-wide or 45 days market-wide, but in your specific price point, in your specific neighborhood, it might be as little as 3 days. So this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna process this all out from an offer to acceptance standpoint. This is how we're gonna make sure that we get you the highest and best price. But when we're ready to go, this is how we're gonna help you buy the house. We can put these contingencies on these, you know, subject to home of choice, things like that. There's been so many times, I shouldn't say so many times, maybe once or twice a year where I get a call from an upset seller. And the reason why the seller is upset with our agent is because they didn't think about what the next step for their seller was gonna be when their offer was accepted on their current house. And it was kind of a lame reason to be upset, but I understood it from that seller standpoint. They're like, that agent didn't tell me that I should have added the, because then they end up talking to their other friend that was an agent. Oh, such and such should have told you to do a subject to home choice clause. Now, you know, it is what it is, right? But just making sure that you're educating and making sure that you understand those challenges for your sellers. The higher price point too, that's probably the biggest challenge that I've seen for some of our agents that have higher priced homes that they're trying to resell, is those higher priced ones are not the same as the $150,000 to $200,000 homes, right? There's a lot more inventory. I think above $1 million, it's like a 12-month inventory. Above 600, it's like 8 months of inventory. Just making sure you know what your sellers are getting into. Okay, we're gonna keep going. We've got about 50 minutes left. So what are opportunities that you have working on your skills every single day? There are so many different things out there. There's podcasts, there's videos, there's books, there's blogs. But one of the coolest things that NAR has come out with that I would love to see you guys all embrace is the C2X, Commitment to Excellence. So write that down, please. It can actually be like a shortcut that you put on your laptop or your phone. It's really cool. I will out myself, haven't finished it yet, but I've gotten through a few of the sections, and they're reminding me, you know, 14 years in the business of things that I should know. Another opportunity is there's a lot of agents. What do we say? 2,155 agents, but a lot of them don't have the skills. They have, if anything, little skills, right? You get out what you put in. Some other opportunities is being professional. If I had $1 for every time on Central Iowa, or you know, that we hear of an agent not being professional and not showing up on the showing and not giving feedback and not even requesting the showing, we'd all have a few extra bucks, right?
Is that N2X, is that a designation you have to renew? You keep paying for?
No, it's not a designation, it's just a training program that NAR put together. So the way it works is you start with modules and you go in and you do a module, and if you don't score a certain amount, it then bounces you to additional information that focuses on the things that you can't see around. So it's not, it's just a training thing. It's not.
So it's something Michelle's gonna put on, something that we have to log on through NAR. It'll be on like probably DMAR's website.
No, I don't think it's on DMAR's website.
How do you get to that?
Just go to NAR's
www.nar.realtor.
website. Yep.
Thank you.
Is there a fee?
What's our Wi-Fi?
No, it's right there.
And it is a certification.
Oh, it is?
Well, but it's not like, but you don't have to pay to renew it.
Max 66.
It's been about a year.
But NAR, or DMAR has put out here 2 or 3 emails.
Oh, yeah, DMAR's talked about it. I just don't know that, I mean, the link's probably on there somewhere.
Right.
What is this program you're talking about? Underneath opportunity.
Yep, underneath opportunities, the second bullet there, Alan, NAR C2EX. So commitment to excellence is what C2X stands for. Highly encourage it. You know, back to working on your skills. Maybe that's it. Maybe you want to pick up a designation. Maybe you want to read a book, read Shane's book. There's so many great real estate books out there. You want to listen to a Buffini or a Ferry or a Robertson podcast or YouTube video. There's so many things out there, guys. The one thing that I've seen in all my years of experience is that agents are always continuing to look for the secret shiny objects. But the biggest secret out there is just working your butt off. Focusing on the things that we talk about every single day, the core 4 to 24. Are you working on your relationships, your sphere of influence? Have you scheduled your open houses for the month? Have you worked on your online social media presence and marketing plan? Are you marketing to your neighborhood or neighborhood you want to target? Those are the core 4. And to get to 24, you focus on those things. Next thing you know, you're in the top 20% of all Des Moines agents, right? Hitting $4 to $5 million in volume, 100,000+ in gross commissions. So I got this, actually I love it. This bullet's from Buffini, and if anyone watched, Ryan, if you watched it, but it's Do the Hustle was a song of the year. It was a 1970 song, and he started dancing to it, so I can do that. Another thing he said too is don't go to sleep during the transaction. That happens a lot in deals, right? You get the offer pendant, you turn it into your ACR, you let your TC take over, but then next thing you know, you're like, oh shoot, we're day 9 and I was supposed to help coordinate that inspection. Or oh shoot, closing's Friday and we haven't done our final walkthrough yet. Oh shoot, I haven't helped my buyer sign up for insurance, or haven't coordinated utilities with them. And so there's so many times where we think we got paid already when the offer gets accepted, and the next thing you know, because you didn't do like the rest of the work, the 3 to 5 to 10% of work that needed to be handled to close that deal, you lost the deal. You lost out on 3% of a $200,000 home. That's a big mistake. And also, they might say, you know what, who was great, during the showings, he did a great job and pointed lots of things out. It was fun. He was great during negotiation. But as soon as he sold us the house, we didn't see him ever again. Saw his assistant, or we, met with his TC and his team, but we didn't see him. He didn't come to closing. He didn't check in with us. So that is a huge opportunity for all of you guys to give that 5-star service, because we all know that word of mouth is huge, right? Agents that work by word of mouth will 12x their business. This is a funny stat, not a funny stat actually. 91% of clients would give referrals, but only 11% of salespeople ask. Actually, that's kind of sad. That's a sad stat, isn't it? Focus on your skills. I talked about negotiation, but communication. How is your communication skill? Do you have, your own personal brand of how fast you're going to get back to people? How about your presentation skills? Don't practice on your clients. If you're about to present, a new construction product, if you're going to present your listing presentation, if you're going to present your buyer's presentation, if you're going to present to a room full of people, a home buying workshop or a downsizing workshop, don't practice on them. Write it out. Practice on yourself. Practice with your friends, your spouses. Getting listings, we got a list to live, right? And so that's a skill that we're going to be talking about in the future coaching. I can't remember which week, Michelle, but I know it's one of the top 6 weeks that we're going to be doing that. But that's the thing, is just that commitment. No one's perfect, but that commitment to be excellent, to always improve yourself. We as humans, we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to, not dot an I across the T, but at the end of the day, if we have all these things that we're building upon, the less errors of margin of error we'll have. Okay. What was that stat? What happened? Browns lost playoffs?
Right.
Okay, let's get down to 2020 mindset. So new year, new beginning. In 1973, only 11% of people wrote down their yearly goals. 1995, that increased to 73%. 2020, less than 20% wrote down their goals or a New Year's resolution. They felt like they didn't work. Okay, so of the 92 people that don't write down their goals and achieve them, only 8 people will succeed. 8% will succeed. So we as real estate agents in our market are already in the top upper echelon. So if you haven't written down your goals yet, if you haven't done your business planning yet, make that a commitment. For those that came through Q4 coaching and took the business planning class, you already have the business planning handout, but that will be, right, Michelle, one of our topics that we'll be bringing up. So prioritize your vital activities. Too many of our agents are focusing on things that aren't vital. We're making sure that we're going to pick up our dry cleaning, get our car washed, and scheduling the house cleaner and making sure laundry's done. I'm not helping anybody have no laundry.
Oh, my truck's real
Did
good.
you,
What is
did
it?
you see my Facebook post or something?
I know. I didn't.
I'm like 4 for 5 on that one.
You
Dry cleaning my yeah.
today? Good job.
Yeah.
But what
I
about
don't
your
start working until 1 o'clock on Mondays. Just
Oh my
I gotta get my stuff going for the week.
okay? So.
I gotta do 1 or 2.
So what we want to do though is focus on the things that are vital. You know, what are the things to be vital to live? Oxygen, food, water, sleep, right? What are the vital things for us as an agent? Networking, prospecting, lead generation, making phone calls, checking in with our past clients, sending out that mailer, creating that newsletter, right? Those are all things that are vital. And if you track back throughout the last year when you were slow, I'd also like to see you track back to what activities you focused on. Oh, I was really slow in June. Oh, what did I do in June? Let me look at my calendar. I golfed on Monday, went to the pool on Tuesday, picked up the kids from camp on Wednesday. Oh, shoot, that kind of makes sense, right? Oh, I went on summer vacation and this and that. So focus on the things that are vital. I'm not saying don't have balance in life and focus on personal hygiene. That's important, right? Can't get a deal without brushing your teeth. But anyways, focus on the things that are important to stay in business. But also I want you guys to do understand what holds you back and how to overcome those things. Is it a lack of planning? Make sure your plans are simple. Simple goals, simple activities. Focus on your time, your money, your energy, your people to allow you to help execute. Those are things that I live and breathe by. I know that no one really has an excuse that you don't have enough time. There's so many successful people that will outsell any of us 5, 6, 10, 20 fold, but they have the same amount of time as we do. So what we have to do is figure out how to utilize our time to the best of our abilities, how to leverage the people around us to the fullest, so that way we're not focusing our times on activities that should be delegated to your ACR or your TC. You don't need to reinvent the wheel and try to figure out how to do something new when myself or Shane or Matt or Lance already know how to do those things, right? As far as energy, that's something that I've been really focused on within the last probably 3 months, because as I'm getting into my 40s, my energy level is not the same as it used to be. So I have to figure out myself a little different. You know, what is it? Do I need to exercise more? Do I need to sleep longer? Do I need to meditate more? Do I need to do more yoga, more stretching? Do I just need to not work as hard? You know, maybe I'm not cut out to work 10 to 12 hours a day like I used to be able to. So figure out those things. So what else is holding you back? Are you inconsistent? We get this all the time. We as agents are just naturally inconsistent. We're solid coming out the gate, right? In January 1st, 2020, because we're motivated. We've got these goals written down, but come the 2nd, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th week in January, we're not consistent anymore. We aren't doing our hour of power. We're not prospecting. We're not going to networking events. We're not doing the training. We're not taking the classes that we need to take. So make sure you guys are doing those things. Best way to help break inconsistency is by time blocking. Create your ideal day, ideal week. Again, those that came to Q4, I know Jen, you came through a bunch. I got a lot of handouts on this stuff. So I'm not just trying to tell you guys to do things without giving you guys the meat and potatoes on how to do that. So keep coming every week, and we're going to go through all of these things. Routines, those that came to the breakfast got a chance to hear my routine, Shane's routine. Routines are important. If you don't have a morning routine, I will say, I'm not going to out Ryan because I love him. Don't start working on Monday at 1 o'clock p.m. Monday at 1 a.m. Booyah. Well, maybe not 1 a.m. Maybe 4 a.m. 4 a.m. on Monday, not 1 p.m. But if you are going to work Monday at 1 p.m., that might be his prime time. So go until 9 o'clock.
That was my agreement when I got into work for my business for myself. I'm never going to have to go to the office at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and that's fine too. Because myself, that's a secret that I have, is I get so much work done for my home office. And we're going to talk more about this. I might be skipping around, but I know exactly what I need to work on in my home office, because all my files in order of priority is sitting next to my computer. My computer, when I open up my laptop, it already is on the tabs that I need to focus on. And then guess what? I have a little sticky note on anything that's important that may not be on my overall master to-do list, but if I just thought about it, I need to do this and this and this. It's on a little sticky note. Also, I have printed off every Monday, what is my to-do list? I'm a paper and pen person, even though we have apps that remind us to do things. So what is your routine? And then stick to it, because human nature is to build habits. We're going to talk more about that too. Don't break the chain. That's something that I've talked about a lot. And this is a real quick story that I'll tell you about Jerry Seinfeld. So Jerry Seinfeld in the history of comedy will go down as the most successful, wealthiest comedian, right? And he is able to say he's been successful because every single day he commits to writing a certain hour's worth of jokes. And every day he does that, he puts an X on his calendar. And he can go back decades and look at all his calendars and tell himself, I have not broken the chain. Whether he's on vacation, whether he's working, whether he's filming, whether he's producing, whatever, he has not broken the chain on the minimum amount of time that he's going to write jokes. And so for you as agents, what I would highly recommend is your hour of power. Don't break that chain. You need at least 1 hour, if not 2 hours a day. So that means 10 to 12 per week to prospect. And prospecting doesn't mean you're just spending a lot of money marketing. That means checking in with some past clients, checking in with friends, making some phone calls, sending out some emails, working on your newsletter, working on your personal notes. 2 hours a day, that's got to be set in Bible. Everything else works around that, even if it's a closing, even if it's a showing. You know, Mr. and Mr. Seller, I would love to come over and meet you for a listing presentation. I'm booked, unfortunately, Monday through Friday, I have a standing meeting at 8 a.m. They don't need to know what it is, but I can meet you at 10. Closing, lenders shoot an email, hey, Erica, what time do you want to close on Friday? Anything after 10, right? Be an agent in command of your schedule instead of in demand, okay? I have an activity checklist that we handed out. I'm actually really excited and very proud of how robust it is. So these things are going to come throughout future weeks. If you already took Q4, you already have them. It's going to be very similar. If you want a head start on all the things that we're going to be talking about in Q1, I've got those handouts ready, but I do want to make sure we do some little bit of sit downs before I just hand over those handouts. Okay. Is there a bad habit that you guys need to be, unfortunately we all have bad habits, right? Hopefully not the extreme ones like, drugs or alcohol or gambling and things like that. But is there a bad habit of being, in front of Sports Center for an hour, or being on Twitter or YouTube for 4 hours a day, or watching As the World Turns? They still got that show? As the Day Turns. Is it As the World Turns or As the Day Turns? Or as we, I don't know. TV. I mean, are you watching too much TV? Are you watching sports, or not sports? Are you watching Fox News too much? I mean, identify the time that you're spending, and are they good or bad habits, and try to break them one step at a time. Also remember that you guys are not quitters, right? This is an important mindset. Even when you feel like quitting, quitting is different than stopping. Quitting is permanent. So no one in this room I know already isn't going to quit what they're doing. But stoppers can always start again. And the key thing too with life will always happen. So persevere. I think I can't remember who had a baby. Was it exactly? Yeah, life is going to happen, right? Sometimes it's a baby, which is awesome. Sometimes it's getting married, which is super awesome. Sometimes it's an illness, which sucks, but we get through those things, right, Jen? Sometimes it's a death. A parent dies, a dear family member dies, your best friend dies. It sucks, right? But the key thing we have to remember is just persevere through those things as best as you can. There is a book that I would recommend reading. I've got it on Audible, Habit Stacking. That's a Tiny Habit book. I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but if you have Audible or you Google it, Tiny Habit. The key thing about habits, when you create them, you don't have to time block 8 hours or 6 hours or even 60 minutes to create a new habit. It might be like, okay, after I brush my teeth, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. It might be, okay, after I get undressed for the day out of my work clothes, I'm going to drop and do 20 sit-ups and 20 push-ups. It'd be like, before I go out and play with my kids, I'm going to do 5 minutes real quick and just clean through my voicemails and my texts and my call log, just to make sure no one's meeting me or wanting me for something. So, but when you stack all these tiny habits throughout the day and know that you don't have to dedicate 15 to 60 minutes all for one thing, all of a sudden you get a lot done, and it's awesome. I've been living, breathing that for a very long time. Creating your I kind of jumped on this earlier for some of these things. Leaving the clues, how I leave my book out, or if you want to, if your goal is to read a book a month, leaving your work files out, leaving exercise clothes out. That's actually been real beneficial for a lot of people I know. It's just having that laid out the night before. and ready to go. Try not to hit 2 bad shots back to back. So don't hit 2 bad calls, 2 bad appointments, 2 bad days back to back. If you have 1, that's okay, right? We're human, but try not to have 2. So if I'm called on to be a presenter for something and I give a bad presentation, I can't do it 2 times in a row. If I meet with a client and I just do a really poor job at the listing presentation or the buyer's presentation, I can't do that twice. If I have a bad showing and I'm not just myself and I'm stuttering throughout the showing, or I seem a little too pushy, don't do those things again. Learn from those mistakes and move forward. Be a doer, a thinker, an influencer. That's one of the things that will attract business to you. It's called being magnetic as a marketer. And so how can you be those things to the people that you're trying to lead, not just in your family, but in your life and in your social and personal network? Also, this is critical too. Look at who you're getting advice from. This can be really scary. You go to Central Iowa Real Estate Exchange and you put a question out there and you see who's giving advice on things, and you're like, wait, who's that agent? Where have they been to be able to give that type of broker advice or technology advice, things like that? That's the same thing, right? Like if I were to take advice from some of the people that I love, but they're not experts in things, I probably would not be where I'm at. My mom told me not to become a real estate agent. My mom told, I've had people tell me not to, build homes or not to get married or not to have a big family. And so be careful who you take advice from. And not all advice is equal. Okay. Even if it's coming from me. Remember to focus on what you can control, right? Because that's all we can do. We can't focus on things that are out of our control. We do and should be able to focus on our reactions to those things that we can't control. Focus on the positive and then not the negative. Okay, so next steps for this group: shut off the news or limit it, right? If you can't quit cold turkey, limit it to 1 hour per week or 10, 15 minutes a day. Be prepared to answer how's the market. Remember that your answer can turn into an opportunity. What I would say is, overall the market is strong, but it really depends on what segment of the market that you're talking about. And if I were to be talking with Trish and Jason, and I'm like, yeah, the housing market right now for the Minnesota Vikings, unfortunately, it is actually pretty good because blah, 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 blah. But, that's how we can create opportunities. If I know that Brandon is looking to buy his first investment home because he's done what happened?
It's the Chiefs, dude.
With the Viking.
Oh, I thought you meant from where you're from.
You're a Vikings fan, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was talking about.
Oh, okay. But if I knew, and I'm just gonna quickly go around the room because if Alan is, and by the way, Alan is Alan to you all, but to me, since we're like this, I call him Alan. Should I continue calling you Alan?
Is that correct pronunciation? We had this conversation, and he said, and I was like, wait a minute. His name was Alan.
It's Alan, or it's Alan technically, but when you call someone in Bosnian, if it's a male, you add an E at the end. Okay. And then if you have noticed, almost 99% of Bosnian female names end with an A.
Suzanne.
Sorry, Alan. Sorry, Alan. But if I was looking at Alan, knowing that, he says, Lou, how's the market going? And I can give him like an elevator pitch, right? That is very high level, but then I can quickly relate to him. It's actually going really good, especially for those clients that I have that, have just won lottery, or just sold their, priceless Yugo, or just had a new kid, the mover uppers. It's a great time to move up. Or, Brandon's doing really well. Maybe he's a great candidate for buying an investment property. Anyone that's looking to downsize. I mean, just kind of put yourself in the situation where there might be an opportunity to create or ask questions. How's the market? I've never met Jacqueline before. Meet her at a networking event. She's like, oh, hi, I'm Jacqueline. And we can chit chat and get to know each other, right? Reciprocation. But I can see it all depends. It depends if you're looking to buy or sell. Well, by the way, back then, you currently own a home, or how long do you live there? Who is your real estate agent? And all of a sudden, if I get some answers that perk me up and say, oh, wait, I don't even know if that agent still exists. Or, oh, you bought a house 14 years ago? She might be a good candidate to take that question, how the market is, into a lead opportunity. So think about those things and how you're going to answer those questions. Other than that, you can do this 12 and 12 club. I've actually been reading this really good book that I want to create a 12 and 12 club. I'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser on it. It's how to turn 12 weeks worth of work into 12 months worth of results. And it's a great book. And I'm going to keep going through it. I'll follow up with you guys on that one. Q1 lineup, like I said, we've got a lot of handouts. If you guys came through the Q1 stuff, got a lot of handouts that we can start working on. If you got the itch to go faster than weekly, let me know. Focus on your mindset, which a lot of this was. I hope this helped you guys all just understand the market overall and what your mindset should be. Hopefully it's going to help you motivate yourself. But if you need daily motivation, like many of us do, find out what helps you get motivated. Is it moving your body? Is it listening to music? Is it listening to a mentor? Is it reading something? Is it watching something? Michelle, I'm going to have you help me do this. Read and watch Ooze Maximizing Your Potential handout and link to video. I've got a handout that I want to share with all of you all. I've got the link to a video presentation I did, especially I think it was before group merged with us. It was back, I think, in September. It was a September breakfast. So it's I feel a great video to watch to help yourself become more organized and efficient and leverage of time and energy. And then also, part of what we're doing, one of the enhancements that we're doing to this Q1 is not just the coaching part, which is myself or any other individuals that are going to be presenting, but also what we want to do is add an accountability part. And also what we want to do is add a mastermind piece to it too. So I understand that I'll probably talk 80 to 90% of the time, but if you guys have anything that you want to add in, I'd love to kind of add some masterminds to these too. But then also accountability. Who last year was in an accountability group that I helped set up? Gina was, Maria was, Erica was, Andrea.
We tried.
We tried, it fell apart.
Yes.
Wait, weren't you the lead of the accountability group?
Yeah, it's just no one.
Hey, hold accountability. Leads accountable. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, let's do that over then. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But look around the room, look around the company, look around the industry overall, and find someone to be accountability partners with. What I will tell you real quickly about accountability groups is it's good to have 5 to 6 people per group. It's good to appoint someone kind of the leader or appoint yourself the leader if you know that you're the most organized and best communicator of the group. But then also it's very good to meet regularly, at least once every 2 weeks, once a month, maybe at the bare minimum. But then also make sure that